It's taken a minute. Writing compelling fiction, here we are in Fort Wayne at the Wyndham Garden. If you haven't joined us, you should, even though it's raining. And welcome to everybody that came here live, that sometimes comes to the writing sprints. We're not going to write. As you can see, I have some wine. So we're just going to talk about writing. So tell me, what are you guys writing? Who wants to volunteer? Volunteer what they're writing. Karen's like, I'm not writing anything. Well, Wendy, you guys know from the writing sprints, Wendy is here. Wendy, you're working on your same book. Yeah, Romantic Suspense. It's a really cool book. It's what she works on during the writing sprints. If you come to those, which are going to be Fridays at 4 o'clock from here on out. Karen?
I'm writing romance and short mystery stories.
And you might know her as Kyra Jacobs on my channel because I interviewed her about writing male dialogue.
Yes.
And so if you haven't seen that video, you should watch it. Yes. Know your characters. And over here, men speaking. So, anybody else want to share what you're working on? Welcome to Courtney. Nice to see you.
I don't really know.
She doesn't talk about her book. We might as well give Tammy's book a plug because Tammy's got this amazing book on mental health, and if you haven't picked it up, you absolutely should. So Tammy, show off your book.
Wait.
Right? Ta-da! It's awesome.
I'm the nonfiction writer crashing the group.
Right.
But writing is writing.
It is. It is.
And you can always learn from it. I mean, I went to Shirley's writing group forever when you were here in Fort Wayne. And there's always things to learn, no matter what kind of genre you're in.
Right.
So.
And Humane Way to Mental Health is an amazing book about different aspects of humanity and mental health, and it's written in poetry form, but it's really, really good, and it will make you think a lot about whether you're being humane or, treating others the way that you should. It's a great, great book.
Let me know if there's anything else I can do for
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything? Were you working on it of anything?
Second Chance Romance.
Second Chance Romance. Awesome. Excellent.
I need like a 9th chance.
I
I don't write anything anymore, but right when self-publishing became a thing, I had sold a book to Harlequin, and then they closed the line before, but they had already paid me, which was the awesome part. But then they gave it back to me already edited and everything.
Nice.
And so I put it on Amazon at Christmas time when everybody got a Kindle in their stocking, and it was in the top 100 for quite a while, and I ended up making 10 times what Harlequin paid me for it. So it was awesome. And then I quit.
Well, in your defense, though, you've been running a business on your own, which has kept you pretty
kind
busy.
of. I do. But I did write a nonfiction book as well that didn't do nearly as well. But it was number 6 in the UK for like a minute, like one day.
Hey, that's all it takes to be a top 10 bestseller, right? Well,
it
cheers to everybody and your success and for coming here. I'm so happy to see you, everybody. Cheers. And they've got giveaways here. So we've got writing compelling fiction pens and bookmarks, and we've got t-shirts and books coming because my suitcase did not arrive with me. My suitcase is arriving with my son. And then I also think I have some some chip clips. I'm not sure though. That person isn't here with my chip clips yet either. So here, guys, have some mozzarella sticks and some onion rings, and these are Gouda mac and cheese bacon bites or something like that. I don't know. And here, pass along some plates. And
I got marinara. Does anyone need ranch or any mustard or anything? Ranch? Ranch? Anyone else ranch?
yeah, ranch would be good. Thank you. So yes, please feel free to share, and we'll get some more appetizers if we eat all these. I have no problem with that. Right, it is, and it is an amazing book, isn't it? It's awesome. And I was very touched because Courtney brought a copy of Writing Compelling Fiction, and I was very excited, and she made me sign it. So.
Because I would probably not read a really boring book about any of these topics, but I would read these little lovely poems.
Yes.
I try not to write boring.
I would like to grow my mind, but I fall asleep for 30 seconds. I only get 30 seconds of mind growing.
Well, Humane Way to Mental Health is really great because it is digestible bits about different topics, and Tammy has been in the mental health field for many, many years, so it's really good. It's really great.
I know, right? Take a picture and you can send it to me.
Yeah, and let me hold it up in front of the channel too for a second, and then I'll give it back to you. So,
I cannot.
yes,
pause.
buy it on Amazon. It's really, really good, and it's some great little poetry and stories and things that will really make you think about mental health and about humanity. Highly recommend.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. This is what happens when you come. I just pump your books. And Kyra's book out is, I'm sorry, I've forgotten the title, even though we just talked about it like
Once
a month
Upon
ago.
a Beast.
Once Upon a Beast. Her book is out on Amazon right now, so you should
And then the
grab it.
next one is coming very soon.
Oh, she has one?
I have one.
Oh, awesome. So it's Jeremy's fault that he doesn't get this. So here's Once Upon a Beast, also available on Amazon, and she does a great job with small town and male characters. You definitely kind of nervous about having it. So
It's been a while since you've been in Fort Wayne
That's true.
leading the group.
That's
so
true.
This should feel like home.
right. If we were at Barnes and Noble, but we couldn't have wine there. So
Well,
We could do it like you come once a month and just get Allegiant, and then you can take Allegiant.
hey, if I could get paid enough to come up here once a month, I would totally do that. My kid would love it. But yeah, so I'm teaching for, I'm doing what I did for Barnes and Noble for the Blue Cross Blue Shield Florida Blue place down where I live, because they have like a community center that is designed to keep people healthier. So sort of like what I did when I taught for GM, where they're teaching any kind of extracurricular community ed class. So I'm teaching writing up there once a month. It's been really fun. You guys follow me on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or TikTok. You guys see the video that I just shared, because I went to Unicon, which was a conference for businesses, and it was all about the Unicorn Universe is a networking group that I'm a part of. If you want to be part of this online networking group, it's really great. Just send me an email. Speakers and everything else, and it was small, but it was all focused on health and wellness, both the mental and physical. So we had a former MMA fighter there, we had a former firefighter there who dealt with a lot of really difficult mental health issues, and we've had some really great people that were speakers there. And there's a video that I just shared that Daniel Knight, who is one of the owners of Unicorn Universe and who ran Unicon, was interviewing people afterwards about like who their favorite speaker was. And it cracked me up because he talked to Nova Hall, who wrote a book about the building of the spirit of St. Louis, which his grandfather was the mechanic building the spirit of St. Louis for Lindbergh. It's a really cool book. It's really, really cool. You've got to see it. It's got all these great drawings and images of all of the parts that went into the plane and why those parts went into the plane. Anyways, he was talking to Nova Hall and said, "Who was your favorite speaker?" And he says, "I'd have to say Shirley Jump." And he said, "I look at this Unicon." It's hilarious. Yeah, it was so funny. So I reshared that on my social media. I can't figure out how to share it on YouTube, so I didn't do that. It's on my community page. There's a link, but I'm not sure they'll let it because it's outside YouTube. I'm not smart enough with that stuff yet. So anyway, it went really, really well. It was awesome, and I made some amazing connections that I'm not going to talk about on live TV, but that should do well in the future. So, what do you guys struggle with writing? Right?
Stringing them together.
Putting letters and making words.
But you are a really fabulous writer, Julie. You really are.
You know, I've always struggled. I can write freehand way better because to me that's a word.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm sitting at the computer typing, it's letters, and it just totally disrupts my flow. So the books that I have written, I've written longhand,
Oh wow.
stapled them all together, ripped out pages, put them different places, and then type the whole thing. When I
Wow.
edit it while I type it, which
Right,
is fine,
right.
but I can't have the thoughts while I'm getting better, but I will, the pivotal scenes though I will still write, and I have done a couple of, and then editing, I'm terrible. I once wrote He grabbed her by the waist, W-A-S-T-E.
That wouldn't end well for him.
That was just gross.
But I do that sometimes when I'm stuck. I write longhand instead. Kathy's here. We're live streaming, just FYI. Thank you for bringing everything. Come on in, have a seat, order what you want at the bar. Thank you for coming. In this awful weather, it was supposed to stop, but it didn't. I do that though sometimes. I write longhand when I get stuck or when I'm starting something new and I'm really confused or struggling to get the words together. I find the brain process is different for me.
I do that sometimes too. If I'm stuck, I'll go sit in a different spot and I'll grab whatever notepad looks the most appealing. I love that fresh notepad.
Yes, right.
Pen and just sit and just start doodling. And whatever idea comes to mind, just go with it. Flashing, and you're like, I don't know. So just writing just kind of frees you up sometimes.
And if you can find something, like the book that I did really well with started with a scene that happened to me in real life. I was with my daughter at the bank and I backed up my car, freaked out because I hadn't seen him in years, and I put my daughter in the car and he didn't even know, had never met her or anything. And I backed into a big blue mailbox, and then I had to get out, and he's standing there. I had to get out and make. I'm like, I didn't know what I hit. It was before backup cameras, you know. I had to get out. I have to see if I smashed a car or whatever, and he would be standing there the whole time, like, do you need help? And I'm like, no, have a nice day.
Right.
And that's how I started that book, and it was not autobiographical, but it was so ridiculous in the moment that it worked. Like, so sometimes you just need that little bit of ridiculousness.
Right, exactly.
To start something.
It's a great meet cute, even if it didn't work out that way in real life, you know. Yeah, that's a great way to start. So Kathy, we were talking about what we each write and what we're working on. I didn't want to leave you out. So what are you working on right now, Kathy? We know Kathy because Kathy comes to the writing sprint sometimes and is one of the masterminds. I've got 2 masterminds here right now, which is awesome. So excited to see you guys in real life. Anyways, go ahead, Kathy.
I'm working on a series. I write a series of cowboy romances. It's been so long since I've seen so many of you, I don't even know you.
I know, I didn't recognize Julie when I saw her.
Hi, Julie. Karen. And so anyway, I did a prequel, and I've done books 1 and 2, and I'm on book 3. And I've got the whole pre-order thing going, so that's always a little bit of pressure there. So people are already ordering it, waiting for the next one. Thank you.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So, and so it's inspired by the town that I live in. So it is an Indiana farm cowboy. And since I grew up on a farm, you know, that's kind of the angle that I'm taking. Because, you know, I do. And then it's really taught me an appreciation of where I came from. Because I was definitely always one of those people, and my characters are, the people that are always think they want to be somewhere else, somewhere bigger, somewhere better. And so it's kind of, all of them are sort of coming home type stories, realizing that, you know, home is where they want to be. Home is where their heart is.
I love that as a theme, that always thinking that it's bigger and better somewhere else, because I relate to that because a lot of my romances were small town, because I grew up in a small town too. And you know, you go to New York City or whatever and you think, oh, this is where I want to be. And then you actually live in a city and it's not as much fun as you think.
Especially, you know, if you start to have kids, you start to, you know, want to do more than just run around and think you're cool.
Right. And building that community. Although one of the things that I found is that when I write city set romances, because I had a series that was set in Boston, I had a couple that were set in New York, is I usually made them in neighborhoods that were basically small towns. Because the neighborhoods of these major cities are basically small towns. I wouldn't say, though, that the city that I live in right now has that feel about it, but I think that some, like Soho and Greenwich Village and stuff like that, do. I don't know, maybe I'm just romanticizing it from far away, because my city definitely does not have that vibe in any place that I have lived so far. But I would love to live in a small town again because there's something special about that for sure.
But we are talking writing fiction, so the great thing about that is you write longing for that sense of community and that small town feel, whether it's in the middle of Soho or something else, you write what you're drawn to. So and the
true.
wonderful thing is, your readers, you'll find the readers out there who can connect with that.
That's very true. I was just telling them that I've written basically my last romance novels ever because I'm not looking for that anymore. Like I found it in my second husband, and I have no desire to make up happy endings anymore. It sounds so
Yours.
sounds so dorky, but he really is sweet and wonderful. And so, yeah, I have no desire to write about fictional, imaginary great men. I found one, And if you want to see pictures, I'll have a slideshow later. Write for a lot of things you write about are what you wish could happen. Although, what does that say about me that I'm writing supernatural suspense now? Maybe and I'm watching too much Dateline. I think he's a little worried. I'm not wishing for anything in that direction whatsoever. But it's fun and exciting to write something different and new after writing so much of the same thing. So that's part of it for me, is doing something new. Anybody else? Yeah.
So, I was writing a book for years with Tammy, and then I completely lost the entire thing. So I've had to start restarting this novel that I've been working on, but the whole storyline is kind of like shifted in a different way. So like I don't know if it's still like good.
Right.
It's kind of what I'm like. I don't know.
But I bet it's even better.
Oh, it is so much better.
Right? I bet it is good.
I found little clips from like what I've sent different people, but like it's completely changed. So I didn't know if like when you guys were writing, has that ever like happened?
Oh yeah. So I lost a whole book once, just 3 weeks before the deadline, and had to rewrite it. And that was, I don't remember what we retitled it because I reissued it, but it used to be called Kiss by Cat, and I cannot remember what the new one is called. But it was better and faster. And then The Devil Served Tortellini, which became The Devil Served Desire when I reissued it. There is a scene in there that I rewrote 4 times because I had an Alpha Smart at the time, which is how old I am. So
I loved my Alpha
I
Smart.
loved my Alpha Smart too.
You loaned it
But-
to me.
And I hit off several times instead of saving it. And so when you hit off and before you save it, it deletes it. And over again, I deleted the same 11 pages. And it was like the 4th or 5th time that I rewrote it from scratch. It became a completely different scene because I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is a sign from the universe that I'm not supposed to write this. And what it ended up becoming, and if you've read it, it's the scene where she finds the roosters, which my mother had ceramic roosters or porcelain roosters, and they become something important in the book. And that scene became something completely different and so much better. So it was kind of like a blessing in disguise, although I'm very sorry because I know how devastating that is. And do you think I've learned my lesson and have a backup installed on my computer? No, I do not. But don't tell my IT husband that. I'm so bad about that. But
Even
yeah.
if you don't lose your work, I don't know how many times I'm about to start draft 5. Like I have so many things, and don't do what Karen's like. I haven't. Nobody's seen your book yet. I'm like, no, because I keep on doing it over and over. And so
We are live streaming. So.
yes, so
This is my amazing kids, people. By the way, my amazing kids, my amazing son, my amazing daughter. By camera.
She don't be afraid to have someone see it like as a whole. Because she's seen snippets, people see snippets, but not as a whole. And I'm regretting it now that I'm like sent it off earlier to her because she's like so now about
You
it.
can get into the over analyzing.
I'm sure.
If you lost it and get to redo it, you're not to the over analyzing state yet. So you're still writing from the story feels right.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. When you get into
Okay, so my husband passed it on the shirt.
the bog
Okay.
down, that's when sometimes you have to step back and just hand it to your beta readers.
That is a good point. Sometimes you just have to step back and hand it over to somebody else to give you an opinion.
Yes.
Yes.
About it. I'm not as worried about it. She helped. like knocked me off of a cliff like was it a month ago. So not quite cliff, but you know,
But it's
like,
true.
practice stuff.
And it doesn't matter how many books you write, because I still could have Janet critique my stuff sometimes because I feel like I get too close to it sometimes to really see what's wrong with it. So even when I did in the mastermind with you guys, I went over the pages from the untitled book that I'm working on for the channel. It was validating to me to have you guys say, oh, this was really good. Oh, I really get this. And sometimes it takes that outside third opinion to go, this is not crap. You've got something here, you know. And I know that everybody struggles with that.
Yeah,
So,
I definitely am.
yes, I get that. I totally get that. And it does. I just said that to Cheryl in the Circle community. So if you guys are not a member of the Circle community, you should be.
Too. I mean, I'm like, I know how she did. I mean, I know what she's talking about, but I'm not worried about it. I'm just in the moment when you're like, oh.
Right.
But
And it is good. Like we used to have that week. We were reading weekly,
Mhm.
the five of us.
Right. Where we
And
meet.
of the five of us, Karen went on, and she's multi-gazillions
I know. Look
published
at
now.
Karen's done so good.
Shirley
She's
was
awesome.
already published at the time, but I think the book that we critiqued in that group was the one that you sold to Berkeley.
Yes.
Mhm. Yes.
And Jeremy, one of our other partners, he had a lot. He's done very well being self-published. I did very well being self-published. So it is that core group of
And
people
DJ
that
won
get-
awards for
Yes,
her book.
and
So
DJ
all of you became published.
DJ,
We're
if you're
DJ.
watching, I'm so
We love
sorry
you.
I forgot you. I love you. I never forget you on purpose.
I know DJ.
But you know, it was a small group, but we really and we pushed ourselves to do a chapter a week, and it really was a good thing. And so I think, and we were sort of brutal. Like I have two adopted children, and Shirley's book was about a family with adopted children in it, and I kind of ripped it, kind of.
Right. Because
The
I didn't know.
language is important when it
Right.
comes to adopted children. It's not something everybody knows. And I felt really bad. I'm like, okay, New York Times bestselling author, and I'm like, this all has red stuff all over it. Back in the day where we did things with pens. And, you know, I felt really bad, but I do think that it really brought it to another level when you had to consider those word choices and the different things
Right.
that people would say and that would be important to them when they were adopted or looking for their adopted parents. So,
Exactly.
you know,
Yes, I agree.
birth
I
parents.
totally
So,
agree.
You know, it's a good thing to do if you can get that small group together around you. And don't be afraid to do it. Like we did it chapter by chapter, like we had a week to write a chapter. So you didn't have like a year to ruminate on what you were gonna say. We didn't even have a week because you had 4 days, like didn't
Right.
we? Because then we had 3 days to
Right,
critique.
right, yes. Oh, and having trouble connecting, please check your internet. So Gabby is watching from Australia, and she wanted to know if that was you. It's Gavin! I know, that's so funny. And then it says having trouble connecting, please check your internet connection, but I do have one. So yes, Gabby is watching, AKA Karen, she says.
Oh,
She's laughing.
Okay, so I have to mention. So I totally stalked Shirley Jump like in 2012 because I had written the book and I was like, I don't know what to do with it. And so I went on Facebook and reached out to the Facebook community and said, I don't know what to do. And somebody said, oh, I go to church with Shirley Jump. She's going to be at the library. So I show up at Shirley's table and I'm like, teach me. And she's like, okay.
I was not that bad.
No. But you had your writing group, but then we ended up connecting sessions like
Right.
you're doing here.
Right.
And she's in Australia.
Right.
And we just did a call, last Friday?
Oh,
We
cool.
talked for 2 hours. I
Oh
mean,
my
we
gosh.
do this every so often. So
That's
I
so
would
cool.
have never met her.
Right.
And she's
Right.
such an amazing, inspirational person. It's so cool. So the writing community, and we were just talking about this, it's not a cutthroat me against you. There's no competition. We're
Right.
all just expressing ourselves in writing books and being
Right.
supportive. And some people are more private and quiet and close, to their chest on their stories, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But once you kind of open to the community, then you realize how much support is really
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
So.
And that's kind of the same thing that happened to me in 2004. I was in Russia adopting my son, and I ended up having to be there for a month. And I read every book that I had, and so I'm like on Harlequin reading all these online reads because that was like one of the only places there wasn't ebooks really back then.
That's true. Yeah.
And so I'm reading all this stuff, and they were having this contest, like write 3 chapters in a synopsis and send it in. So I wrote about this thing that had happened with my ex, and I sent it in. It was for Harlequin Next, which is a line long closed, and I won the competition. And they're like, so we'd like to see the rest of the book for publication. I'm like, okay, by when? And then I Googled, and I ended up getting Scribe's information on the internet, and so I called the I don't know. And so through that, I ended up with the Critique Partners, and I did end up selling it to Harlequin, even though they closed the line before it was published. And one of those people was Kathy. She was a huge Critique Partner of mine at the time, and you know, it really is like a community of people, like you were saying. And so it's good to find those people that you can talk about with, like, because they're fake people. Like, somebody needs to know about your fake people so that you can discuss
Your fictional
talk
characters.
about them,
Yes.
and then they become real people on the page, but not until you have that interaction, for me anyway, that they can become real. And my big struggle is writing women. I was really good at writing men, but writing women are so stupid. I'm like, why are these girls so dumb? Like, what is wrong with them? And you know, that was one thing that I really had to work on. I know that Karen helped me a lot with that, because she's great at writing women and men too, but you know, really women is where she shines. And I was like, gosh, if we just put our brain, you know, together.
But
Like,
the whole
each
reason
half
I
the person.
started the Barnes and Noble group was because I needed other writers to talk to. And yes, I had a writers chapter, romance writers chapter that I was a member of. Actually, I think I was president for like a lifetime. I think it was like 9 years I was president, because nobody wanted to be president. But I was a part of that, but that was only once a month. And I really needed more writer interaction than that, and people that spoke the same language as I did. It's so important to find other people that speak writer, which is the entire reason I started the community part, the circle community, because I wanted you guys to have a place to go to be like, oh, my characters are being, you know, controversial, or they're being a pain in the butt, or I'm having trouble with this, or I'm having trouble with that. And when I'm not there, you can ask each other questions and find support, like Wendy and Cheryl have together, where Cheryl posted about how she was struggling with her revisions, and Wendy's like, you write really well. And so you've got that voice that's saying, you can do this. And it doesn't matter what you're writing, because like Tammy said at the beginning, no matter what you're writing, you can learn from other writers. And the channel, even though it's directed towards fiction, the whole show not tell, all of those kinds of concepts are directed towards all kinds of writing. So I agree, like, I'm so glad that you guys found each other and that you found me, because you became my sounding board when I was going through different stuff and I was struggling with my career.
It's really hard to, like, when you don't have that scheduled interaction with people, like, I've really let that fall on the wayside for me since we haven't been meeting. And so it's difficult. Like, I wrote best when I had 2 little kids. I'm working full time as an HR person. I would sit in meetings and send myself emails of a scene, you know, that I was working on or something, you know, or like I would read into my phone as technology got better on my way home. Like, I would say things into my phone and stuff. I was on a very straight road for 40 minutes, and so sometimes I would actually write.
I did the same. I've done the same thing. So yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
it's a good thing nobody.
You know,
was
when I
me.
was scrounging for time, it was like my little getaway. Now that my kids are grown and I could do what I want, it is harder to keep that fire for it. And so I haven't written in quite some time, but that's part of the reason.
Then you should join the writing sprints on
But
Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern time.
4 p.m. Eastern time. I
Yeah.
could probably
Where's your
do that.
deadline?
I don't work on Fridays because it's a terrible day to work.
I agree, but I'm working, so.
Well, that's your job. That's not my job. I don't work my actual job on
Right.
Fridays because nobody can make me, and so I don't want to do it. So yeah, that's
But you know, I agree with you though, because my company is busy enough. Jumpstart, the nonfiction division of my company, is busy, and it keeps me busy more than 40 hours a week. And those writing sprints have been the best thing that ever happened to me, because it is the only time I get to work on the fun stuff. Because the fun book that I'm working on, the supernatural suspense, is not contracted. It's not going anywhere for anybody. There's no editor waiting for me for a deadline. So by doing it with you guys, I get to work on it every week. And every week I'm like so excited that I got to work on it, you know? So I love the writing sprints.
I know. I feel like I'd give my agent a heart attack because we've both gotten older now, and I feel like if I contact her and said I actually wrote something, she'd freak out. So I think that would be fun.
Our jaws would drop, but we would be cheering you on.
Right,
I would
right,
be like, that's right.
right,
Well, you
right.
know, Shirley, when I went to contact you, that I decided to do this book in poetry form, all I could think about was all those Barnes and Noble groups we do. You almost started all of them with all the genres you work with, and the only thing I don't do is poetry.
That's
And I'm
true.
like, oh crap, this is going to be really bad.
Right.
And immediately you were like, okay, you gave me authors who wrote poetry.
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew mental health. I've
Right.
been doing it for 40 years, even though I'm still young and cool. And so I knew mental health, but I needed to see some different formats of poetry.
Right.
And so the fact that you said, look at this person and this person, and I was able to read some really good writers and figure out what kind of format I wanted to use, which was excellent. But seriously, all I could think is, I do this genre, this, I do not do poetry. I'm like, oh.
I had some bad poetry
so
experiences
bad.
in college, in my defense.
That
Yeah.
is such a neat
So-
thing though, because people that are struggling cannot sit down and read like 27 chapters of things that are telling them what they're doing wrong with their life.
Right.
But they can read one page of something that they need to hear in that minute, whether it's how to be brave or courage. I was just like, dude, and that's amazing. Mike can totally buy that for like 9 people. I'm so excited.
Right. It's
Like,
awesome. It really touches on so many
it's
important
so
subjects.
cool.
It really
And
does.
my sister works in mental health. She's a therapist, and
That's what I know.
yeah, at Parkview Behavioral Health.
And I'm at Parkview.
Really, you know Betty?
What's
She's a
her-
group therapist.
What's her?
Betty Barnes.
I sure
You know
do.
her? Yeah.
I sure do.
Yeah.
I'm in the
So-
physician's office, but I know her because that's where I got my start with behavioral health.
Oh yeah. So I know that she does groups, and I
Yes.
think that would be an excellent thing. She goes, she could say we're going to talk about being brave or having courage or any of those little things in your book, and that's so cool. And that's one of the great things about writers groups too is that I would have never seen that book if I hadn't come to
Well, and I'm
I would have
working
never-
solo. I mean, so I didn't have other writers to talk to, but I knew her. And so I could reach out to her, and I got on her schedule, and we were able to talk to each other.
Yeah,
And,
that's such a neat
Yeah.
twist. I love that twist.
I know,
of
right?
that book.
I mean, I know Kathy. Kathy and I have connected before, because we all went to Barnes and Noble, and there were a bunch of us.
Yeah, way
but-
back, way back.
And by connection means I'm always desperate for nonfiction people to interview.
Kathy interviewed me
Because
when I
Kathy's a
was,
journalist who works for a bunch of newspapers and
She
magazines.
interviewed
does.
me because I cooked a different recipe for every. I watched Julia, and I got
I did too.
inspired.
Love it.
And I was
Amazing.
such a terrible cook. Like I'd go, kids, what are we gonna have for dinner tonight? They'd be like, McDonald's or Burger King. They're like 5, and I'm like, oh my god, I have to like actually cook some food. Day in September, and I still have Facebook memory. I think it was like 2012 or something.
That's amazing.
And Kathy had read an article about it for the newspaper.
Oh,
and
that's
it was
cool.
ridiculous.
Oh my gosh,
I
I
had
didn't know
so
that.
much feedback
That's
on
awesome.
like people like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna do that, and some of this stuff was really bad, and then I put it on a blog. And my blog was Big Mama Little Mouse, and so it was supposed to be like
remember
stuff
that
your
blog,
kids would eat, and like the kids were like, I am not eating that. And truthfully, my son only ate bok choy because he thought it was bok choy. He was 5, so he thought it was like
It's
so-
all in how you market,
Yeah.
right?
Marketing, right? So
That's awesome.
yeah,
True.
like and I only did that because I knew these people, so it really is important.
So a writing community is super important, and I am so glad you all guys all joined us. And if you're not a part of the Circle community, I encourage you to go to Writing Compelling Fiction Circle. Just Google that because I don't remember the URL off the top of my head. And come to our writing sprints on Friday. The next one is Friday, October 6th at 4 o'clock. And I'm so thankful that you all joined us for the stream. So thank you, and we'll say goodbye. Bye, everybody.
Sure, Julie, I had no, I found I grabbed with like an envelope or something, and I was in there going, like
Gabby
trying
says
to
goodbye.
write while I was writing.
It's already ending. It's ending.